Howdy y'all, you got the Bulldog on the channel. We got an '08 Kia Optima here. It was in last week, we diagnosed it. And we're gonna be doing a wheel bearing today. Now this is a press-in type. You need a shop press to put this in really. You can do it by beating it in with a hammer and a socket and stuff, but you're gonna really risk having to do it again and again and again because you're liable to damage it. But we've got a shop press here. I'm gonna get it all apart and show you how to do this. Now it's pretty obvious whenever you've got it in the air and you can shake the wheel like this and have slack that the wheel bearing has a problem. I'm always checking for tie rods, loose suspension components. You get some slack this way, it might be a ball joint. Slack this way, it might be a tie rod, but you always want to double check and make sure where it is moving, because a wheel bearing can move each way also. This one's tight, but it's making a horrible noise, and I'll show you how to check that. Now I've got a mechanic's stethoscope that I use for this job. You put it in and listen to it right up there next to the CV joint where it goes through. While it's running, while you have somebody in the car running it, preferably. You can do it by yourself, but it is not safe. But they're running it inside and you're listening to the knuckle right here, listening for the noise. Alternatively, you can use a screwdriver, put it up against that, and put it on your ear, on the outside of your ear. Push in that flap that covers up your ear and put the end of the screwdriver right up against that. And the noise will transmit right into your eardrum. The best way is to compare both sides. In this area right here, you just want to be away from what's spinning, but on the knuckle itself. This is the steering knuckle, and the bearing presses into this. If you listen to it right there, you'll hear the noise. All right, let's pull this wheel off and get started. Okay, looks pretty straightforward. We've got an ABS sensor right here to pull out. Pull off the brake bracket here. Strap it up to the strut. I'm gonna take the strut loose right here and take the knuckle out. Sometimes I don't like to disturb these, but this one's been in a wreck and screwed up anyway, so I'm gonna put a level on this and see where the bubble is and just put it back exactly where it was. Pull the nut, knock out the tie rod, and this is a bolt-on ball joint, so we'll just unbolt it and pull it out. That'll get us into it pretty quick and easy. So let's get after it. By the way, whoever engineered these stupid lug nuts to have a cover on them so that they'll get rust underneath of them and swell up, I hope you step on a Lego. This is the part where the YouTube mechanics and the ones that say just do it yourself, they kind of run into a roadblock. Got the bolt out, but this sensor is stuck in the knuckle. It won't rotate. I will end up destroying this if I take it out. So what are we gonna do? We're gonna have this off. Well, I'm not gonna take that out. I'm gonna put the bolt back in it. I'm gonna take the wiring loose and unplug it from up in here. It runs up underneath. This is extra work that I don't get paid to do, but I would rather eat a little bit of time than to break this thing off and make a customer pay for a new part. And then, of course, people will say, well, you broke it, you pay for it. No, it's in the course of the repair. So rather than break the part, I'll take it loose from the other end and contend with having this in the way. Now, you see where the bubble is? The bubble is exactly half of the bubble. So when we put this back, this bolt's been replaced so that it's a smaller diameter so that they can adjust it. We'll have to put that bubble back in the exact same spot. So remember where that is. You guys, remember where that is. Again, I often get questions, about what size bolt is this? What tools will I need to do this job? Like I say, this bolt has been replaced so that it's a smaller diameter so that they can get some adjustment out of this. This is 18 millimeter, that's 19 millimeter. Things change. And oftentimes, by the time they get to me, everything's different. So I just don't pay attention to what tools I should need. I pay attention to what tools I use to get the job done. Wow. This nut's a 19, the bolt is a 17, this end is an 18, this end is a 15. So, yeah. Bear in mind, I'm using a brass hammer here so that I don't mushroom the end of these bolts. I believe it's a bolt with an eccentric in it. So it's caught and doesn't want to come out. This is the kind of equipment that you find in the aftermarket. It's been put in there so when you rotate this bolt, it changes the angle. So people will say, well, there's no adjustment on that. You don't need to do all this kind of stuff. I do, because I never know what it's got. Now that we got that all taken care of, just pull it straight out. Drop parts on the floor because that's what we do. Now, pulling it out is fairly straightforward. You've got a big clip in here. You're gonna squeeze, pop out of there. We'll have to drive this out the other way. I don't have a really good way to do it, so I just get a socket and drive it out with a hammer and then press out the rest of it. Now, there's several ways to get this out. I usually just stick a screwdriver behind it and pry out on it. Because the correct tool usually just bends. There we go. And if my Snap-on man asks if I was using this as a screwdriver, can you guys vouch for me and say no? Come on. There we go. Once you get it started up out of the hole, and just start walking your way around. Some of them don't even have a snap ring in it, and it just, I don't know how they stay together, but they come from the factory without one. They always leave here with one though. Okay, I got this knocked out of there, and now we gotta take the air hammer and an air chisel and vibrate this race off, because it usually stays with this. Now, as you come apart, inspect your races for damage, because there's noise coming from somewhere. I'm going to put this back in the bearing so that I have something to push against to press it out, but we're going to knock the other side out after we get it apart. Now let's knock this bearing apart and see what it looks like inside. There's a little bit of unevenness here, but not much. Ooh, there we go. See if we can get it to focus. There is the rough spot. And this is where you see the big difference between American parts and Chinese parts. Chinese parts tend to do this more than American parts. It's not saying that I haven't had this problem in Made in USA stuff, but almost every one of them that I've pulled apart where this is the case, it's been Chinesium. Feel anything on this side. That is why when you're checking for these bearings, when you're driving down the road, you turn your wheel left and right while you're going down the road, and it puts pressure against either this race or the other race. And when you have a bad spot like this, when you put more pressure against this, it makes more noise. That's why it goes away one way and is louder the other way. Now, what we're going to be installing here today is a National number 510034, and unfortunately they've sold out to China and they're making them over there now. So far I haven't seen quality decrease in them, but we'll find out. Now, you saw that when I was taking this thing apart, I was using sockets to press in on this. It's important to press only on the outside when putting this back in, because you'll damage it. Your old bearing is the exact size that you need. So you just use your old race to press in your new bearing. Now we got it all pressed together. We're going to reinstall our snap ring here. Getting this in there without damaging yourself or anything else can be a little tricky. I usually just get it started down in there. Pop everything out, and then work on it with a pry bar or screwdriver. Again, you have to be careful. Okay, it's fully seated. We're ready to reassemble. Now, since this has an eccentric in the top, I'm going to put the bottom bolt in first. Slide it up on the axle. Again, you didn't see me do that with the snap-on tool. Now let's put in the ball joint bolts. Now that that's all being held in place, I'll go ahead and put in this eccentric bolt. I understand that there is a proper torque spec on that, but I kind of know what it is. If you don't know what it is, then don't do that. Use a regular torque wrench. You run that up until it's snug, but not tight, because you're going to have to adjust this here. I'm going to go ahead and tighten up the axle. Now, the way you tighten this is you go until it hits and tighten it up more, and then go until you can get the cotter pin in. There's two different ways for it to go in. You can look up the proper torque spec, but what you're doing is the two halves of that inner race butt up against each other, and that is what you're torquing against. You just want it so tight that it cannot come apart. If you over torque it, then that's bad, but it's very difficult to over torque. Now, I usually bend the clip up over like that and snap the other end off straight. I wanted this tight so that when I put the level on this, I know there's no way for it to be off. Okay, that part is snug. I got this on here. Steer it back straight. And right there we are, right at that point. Hold your wrench in place and tighten it down. Watch your ears. Before you take anything apart, double check. We're looking good. Now you can tighten the other one. I've got a whole bench full of tools over here in my way. You wonder why mechanics need so many tools. This is on one job. I can't see. You're making me look bad. Maybe it's not this that's making me look bad. You gotta think about that too. Sometimes it's making you look bad and sometimes you're just that bad. It never happens off camera, I swear. Now that it's put back together, I'll show you. That's where the thing plugs in, and there's a clip right there that holds it in place. Go in without breaking. That's got the cover back on. This is something that I hand tighten. Did I get down enough? Yeah. I'll spin it down, but I don't impact a tie rod or a ball joint for that matter. I always hand tighten the taper on it anyway. Yes, there's a torque spec on it, but I just kind of go by feel. Rotate this back. I always put these screws back in. I know it's not have to, but I just like having them there. It's not letting me go out. Everything's falling apart. I might have to take the bracket off to make it all go back together correctly. These pads are not good. Needs brakes. But the customer likes to do his own stuff when it comes to the cheaper stuff. Why won't you go in? There. And the hose is twisted. Okay, customers picking up the vehicle. Everything's good to go. So like, comment, subscribe, hit your little bell notification, share it all around. Talk to you later.